Throughout history, certain cults have captivated and horrified the world with their bizarre beliefs, extreme rituals, and tragic endings. These groups often centered around charismatic leaders who exercised complete control over their followers, leading them down paths of destruction. From apocalyptic prophecies to mass suicides, these cults are among the strangest and most disturbing ever recorded. Stay tuned, as we are going to explore the strangest cults in the history. Heaven's Gate, USA, 1970s to 1997. In the 1970s, a cult known as Heaven's Gate emerged in the United States, founded by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. The group combined elements of Christianity, science fiction, and New Age beliefs, claiming that the Earth was on the verge of being recycled, and that true believers could escape by shedding their human bodies and ascending to a higher plane of existence. Applewhite convinced his followers that salvation lay in leaving behind all worldly attachments, including family, material possessions, and even their own physical forms. The cult's most infamous moment came in March 1997, when 39 members were found dead in a California mansion. Dressed in matching black clothing and wearing Nike sneakers, they had committed mass suicide in the belief that a spaceship, traveling behind the Hale-Bopp comet, would take their souls to a new world. This chilling event remains one of the most well-known cult suicides in modern history. The People's Temple, USA, 1955 to 1978. Founded by Jim Jones in 1955, the People's Temple started as a progressive religious movement, advocating for racial integration, social justice, and communal living. However, as Jones's power grew, his leadership became increasingly authoritarian. He demanded absolute loyalty, controlled every aspect of his followers' lives, and manipulated them with fear and deception. By the late 1970s, amid growing scrutiny from authorities and the media, Jones moved his followers to the remote jungle settlement of Jonestown, Guyana, promising them a utopian society. Instead, life in Jonestown became a nightmare of forced labor, surveillance, and psychological abuse. The tragic climax occurred on November 18, 1978, when over 900 members, including children, died in what became known as the Jonestown Massacre. Under Jones's command, they drank a cyanide-laced fruit drink, leading to one of the largest mass deaths in modern history. Those who refused were either forcibly injected or shot. Jones himself died from a gunshot wound, though whether it was self-inflicted remains debated. Aum Shinrikyo, Japan, 1984 to present. In 1984, Aum Shinrikyo was founded in Japan by Shoko Asahara, a self-proclaimed guru who blended Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, and doomsday prophecies into a dangerous ideology. The group believed that the world would soon face nuclear annihilation, and that only Aum followers would survive. Asahara claimed he possessed divine powers and could transfer spiritual energy to his devotees. Over time, Aum Shinrikyo amassed wealth and influence, even recruiting highly educated scientists who helped develop chemical and biological weapons. Their most infamous act occurred on March 20, 1995, when members released sarin gas in the Tokyo subway system. The attack killed 13 people, injured over 5,000, and sent waves of terror throughout Japan. Authorities quickly cracked down on the cult, arresting Asahara and other key leaders. In 2018, Asahara and several of his followers were executed, but remnants of the cult still exist under different names, continuing to spread their apocalyptic beliefs. The Order of the Solar Temple, Switzerland, France, Canada, 1984 to 1997. One of the most mysterious and ritualistic cults in modern history, the Order of the Solar Temple was founded in the mid-1980s by Joseph Di Mambro and Luc Jouret. The group combined elements of Christianity, Freemasonry, and New Age mysticism, claiming that its members were chosen to prepare for an afterlife on the distant Sirius star. They believed that only through elaborate ceremonies and eventual death could they reach their celestial destiny. Di Mambro and Jouret exerted complete control over their followers, convincing them that death was a necessary step in their spiritual journey. Between 1994 and 1997, dozens of members were found dead in a series of coordinated murder-suicides across Switzerland, France, and Canada. Many of the victims were drugged, shot, or burned, and their bodies were arranged in ceremonial patterns, often wearing ritual robes. The disturbing nature of these deaths, combined with the cult's secretive structure, has led to countless conspiracy theories and lingering mysteries about the group's true motives. Ho no Hana Sanpogyo, Japan, 1980s to 2000s. At first glance, Ho no Hana Sanpogyo appeared to be a spiritual movement offering health and wellness guidance. However, under the leadership of Hogen Fukunaga, this Japanese cult turned into a massive fraud operation, scamming thousands of people out of their money. Fukunaga claimed he had divine powers that allowed him to diagnose illnesses and predict people's futures simply by examining their feet. He told his followers that failing to seek treatment for these diagnosed ailments would lead to dire consequences, including suffering in their current life and misfortune in the afterlife. The treatment? Costly seminars, spiritual guidance sessions, and of course, expensive foot readings. At its peak, the cult charged members up to $900 per foot reading, claiming it could cure diseases, bring prosperity, and prevent future suffering. Thousands fell for this elaborate scam, handing over their life savings in the belief that Fukunaga's spiritual wisdom would heal them. The scam finally unraveled in the early 2000s when authorities investigated and Fukunaga was convicted of fraud, marking the end of one of Japan's strangest cult schemes. The movement for the restoration of the Ten Commandments of God, Uganda, 1980s to 2000. In the 1980s, Uganda saw the rise of a doomsday cult that preached strict obedience to the Ten Commandments. Led by Credonia Mwirinde and Joseph Kibwetir, the movement for the restoration of the Ten Commandments of God promised salvation to those who followed their rigid rules, which included fasting, daily prayer, and complete submission to the leaders. The cult's central prophecy was that the world would end on January 1st, 2000. Followers were told that only those who strictly adhered to the Ten Commandments would survive. As the predicted doomsday approached, members gave away their possessions, withdrew from society, and prepared for the apocalypse. However, when the world failed to end in 2000, skepticism grew among the followers. Realizing that their deception was unraveling, the cult leaders orchestrated one of the largest mass killings in modern history. In March 2000, over 900 members died in a massacre involving poisonings, stabbings, and a devastating church fire. Initially believed to be a mass suicide, further investigation revealed it was a planned mass murder carried out by the leaders to silence doubters. To this day, the full extent of the cult's horrors remains a chilling mystery. The Ant Hill Kids, Canada, 1977 to 1989. Few cults in history were as brutal and disturbing as the Ant Hill Kids, a Canadian doomsday cult led by Roche Thériault. A self-proclaimed prophet, Thériault preached a mixture of Old Testament fundamentalism and his own warped spiritual doctrines. Under his leadership, members were subjected to unimaginable cruelty. Thériault demanded absolute loyalty from his followers, isolating them in a remote commune in Quebec. He ruled with an iron fist, enforcing strict obedience through torture, mutilation, and psychological abuse. Members were forced to endure brutal punishments, including being burned, beaten, and even having limbs amputated, sometimes by Thériault himself. Women in the cult were treated as his personal property, forced into marriages, and subjected to horrific abuse. Despite the extreme violence, many followers remained devoted to Thériault, believing his claims of divine power. The nightmare finally ended in 1989, when authorities rescued the remaining survivors and arrested Thériault. He was sentenced to life in prison, where he was later murdered by another inmate in 2011. The Ant Hill Kids remains one of the most infamous cults for its extreme brutality and sadistic control. The Church of Euthanasia, USA, 1992 to present. The Church of Euthanasia took a radical approach to environmentalism. Founded in 1992 by Reverend Chris Korda, the group promoted extreme population control, arguing that reducing human numbers was the only way to save the planet. Their core philosophy centered around a shocking slogan: "Save the planet, kill yourself." While they claimed not to directly encourage suicides, their rhetoric glorified self-harm, abortion, and even cannibalism, though only of those who had already died. They openly opposed procreation, urging people to stop having children to reduce humanity's impact on the environment. Korda and the group engaged in provocative stunts, often using dark humor to spread their message. They published guides on suicide methods, created pro-suicide music videos, and even distributed how-to materials on reducing the human population. Unsurprisingly, their actions led to widespread backlash, legal trouble, and condemnation from authorities. Despite being far less violent than other cults on this list, the Church of Euthanasia remains one of the most controversial and bizarre movements in history. That's all for this video. Subscribe to us for more videos, thanks.